You don't have a discipline problem. You have an identity problem. And that is why discipline feels hard when it should feel natural. You see, Psycho-Cybernetics explains that your actions tend to match the image you hold of yourself. If you see yourself as somebody who lacks discipline, then it's always going to be hard to stick to your goals, to stick to your habits and routines. You're always going to feel like you're fighting against your own behavior, against your own mind. But when you change that identity, discipline stops feeling like a battle, and it actually starts to feel like second nature. That is when you want to do the things that are good for you. That is when you want to go for a run, when you want to read, journal, meditate, do the deep work, and that is the end goal. In this video, I'll break down the practical ideas from this book over here, Psycho-Cybernetics, and I'm going to show you how to use these principles in your own life to build discipline and rewire your identity in order to eliminate procrastination, to focus better. Fix your inputs. Be more consistent so you can get to your goals a lot faster. Part number 1, discipline's main enemy. Discipline's main enemy is self-image. Self-image is either working for you or working against you. There is no in-between. Chances are, your self-image has been obstructing your discipline and making it harder for you to achieve your goals. You see, if I ask you to wake up at 5 a.m. tomorrow, a disciplined person and an undisciplined person both hear the alarm at 5 a.m. Now the difference isn't the alarm, they both hear it. The difference is the identity. The disciplined person wakes up because they want to wake up, because they know that that's good for them, because they have all the tasks that they want to do and achieve in their mind, and they're ready to attack the day. For the undisciplined person, it just feels uncomfortable. It feels like a very comfortable snooze. They know they have to get up, work to do, but their identity is just holding them back and creating this mental resistance towards them and the action they need to take. Now, there's two versions of you at this moment. There's the disciplined version of yourself, the highest version of yourself. And there's the undisciplined version of yourself, the lower version of yourself. The higher self is the one who sticks to their promises, keeps their promises. They journal, they read, they do all the good habits. They don't waste time, they don't procrastinate, they don't doom scroll. They focus on themselves, and they are the best version of themselves. Now that version of you might have been for maybe a week, for maybe a couple of weeks, maybe even a couple of months. But it seems that that identity just can't stay. That I'll explain later in this video. Now, the undisciplined version of yourself, the lower self, always seems to write things down and never actually does them. This version of yourself procrastinates and doom scrolls and just wastes their time. They can't stick to their goals, they don't stick to their inputs, and they always complain about why they don't have the life that they want. And this all happens on a subconscious identity level. Now, there are two versions of you. Let's tap into exactly the framework you can use in your own life to transition from being the undisciplined version to the disciplined version so you can get to your goals. Now, your level of success never exceeds your level of discipline. If you're stuck with, your income, your business feels like it's stagnating, it feels like you're unable to make progress in the gym. It feels like your relationships are just on hold, and it feels like you're just not operating at the level you want to be at. That is all identity. And I'll explain exactly how to shift your identity so that the good work, the results that you want feels like it's deserved, like it's natural. Now that's where the goal-seeking mind comes in. We need to first understand how the mind works. You see, your brain naturally moves towards whatever outcomes you tend to focus on. So if you have an identity and an outcome that you repeatedly focus on, this is going to stick, and it is going to be absorbed by your subconscious mind, and it's going to become your self-image. And that self-image reflects itself through your daily actions. And obviously, the actions you take create the life that you have. You can't expect to scale your business if you're not putting in the work to scale your business. You see, it all starts with belief. And number one is the way you see yourself. First of all, you see yourself a certain way, and then your brain starts to look for evidence to match that self-image. So if I see myself as a disciplined person, and that's my underlying self-image, then yes, I'm going to slip up. Yes, I'm going to have times where I just go back to bad habits, where I procrastinate a little bit, or I doom scroll. But the trick here is the discipline identity is going to kick in and your mind is going to start looking for ways to reconfirm that identity. It's going to look for evidence. It's going to create patterns in your behavior, in your actions, so that it can be like, yes, we are right. Right. The subconscious always wants to be correct. So whatever your self-image is right now, your brain is going to look for ways to match that. You are going to find yourself taking actions just to confirm that belief that you have of yourself. If you see yourself as a person who procrastinates, even if you try 1,000 things, you will come back to the same place. And that is why identity before habits is so important. You see, Atomic Habits is a great book that talks about habits. And it also has a part about identity, where habits and identity meet, is that if you want to make the biggest change with your habits, you shouldn't try to focus on the habits themselves. You see, the habits themselves are a consequence. They are a byproduct of your identity. Now, a lot of people, they try to stop bad habits, cut out the bad habits, when they still have the identity of somebody who does those bad habits. Try to implement good habits, like they try to read, they try to journal, they try to meditate, but they don't yet see themselves as a person who does those things. And as a result, they'll be able to be consistent for maybe 1 week or 2 weeks, and then they will forget these habits. Most people try to build disciplined habits before becoming a disciplined person. Psycho-Cybernetics flips that around. Change the identity first, and the habits become much, much easier. Instead of trying to change the habits, which eventually always leads to you forgetting them, it's slipping up, and then you ask yourself, what's wrong with me? And then you think that something is wrong, and you ask yourself, why am I not disciplined? Why don't I have willpower? First, you change the self-image. You see, willpower tries to force behavior. You try to force these habits into your life when they don't even belong yet, but self-image determines behavior automatically. You will always take action in alignment with the way you see yourself, with your identity now. Before we get into part number 2, where I'm going to show you exactly how to rebuild your self-image to match your desired outcome, so that the habits, the routines, the actions you have to take don't feel forced, but they feel natural. Let us talk about the identity thermostat. So you can temporarily outperform your self-image, but it's just not going to last. It's always going to return to what feels like normal. So you need to ask yourself, what current level of success, what current level of being disciplined, of being productive is your normal? What is your baseline? That is your identity thermostat. For example, in a room, if the thermostat is set to 25 degrees Celsius, it doesn't matter if the room gets colder and it drops down to 20, the thermostat is going to kick in and bring it back up. Bring the room back up to 25. Say for some reason the room gets warmer than 25 degrees Celsius, the thermostat is going to kick back in and bring the room back down to hit 25, which is the baseline. So it doesn't really matter how hot or cold the environment gets, the thermostat will always bring it back to baseline. This is the same with your success, with your income, with your physical goals, with your health, with your relationships. For each of these things, you have an identity thermostat, a level of success, a level of income, a level of habits and discipline, a level of anything that is normal to you. And that normal is what you will always return to. If your identity thermostat is that of a person who can only make 10K a month, then it doesn't matter if you have a good month. Your identity thermostat is set to 10K. If you have a good month and you hit 20K, you will self-sabotage. You will take the wrong actions, make negative decisions to bring yourself back down to 10K. Likewise, if you have a bad month, you hit 5K, you will instantly up the gas. You will instantly up the actions to get to that 10K again. And most people, they have their identity from what's set at a certain level. And it's like a ceiling, right? They try to outwork the identity, but they keep hitting the invisible ceiling. So in order to achieve what you want to achieve, you first need to remove the ceiling so you can level up. Before that point where you raise the set point, where you raise the ceiling, everything is going to feel hard. The habits are going to feel hard. Scaling your business is going to feel hard. Being more productive and not wasting time is going to feel very hard. Now, one quick question. Let me know in the comments below, what is one habit that you've just never been able to stay consistent with? For me, that has always been meditation. For October of last year, I had the thought of I wanted to meditate. I would always write it down, but I would just never stick to it for years before that. So let me know below. What is one habit that you've just never been able to stay consistent with? For me, that has always been meditation. I think I've said this in another video, but before October of last year, I had the thought of I wanted to meditate. I guarantee write it down, but I would just never stick to it for years before that. So let me know below, because it has way more to do with identity than with motivation. Now, part number 2, rebuilding your self-image. Most people think they're not where they want to be because of circumstance, because of luck, or strategy, or whatever. But it's just because of identity and discipline. Number 1, you don't have the discipline systems in place to be able to take the action consistently enough to scale. Your inputs are not dialed, and as a result, your outputs are also not dialed, and you don't get the results you want. And with identity, you just have a ceiling above your head that blocks you from getting to the next step. So let us talk about imagination versus reality. You see, the nervous system actually responds very strongly to imagined experiences, almost as if they're real. And I'll talk about this in a minute. You see, think about the time where you had a bad dream and you wake up and you're sweating. You have a dream and all of a sudden your heart is racing. Or you think and you project to the interview you have next week. Or you have this public speaking event tomorrow. Or you have this important thing. And you're in your mind, you're just sitting, you're in your room, and you're just rewriting self-image, imagining worst-case scenarios, and your body is literally having a physical response to it. Your heart rate is increasing, you are sweating, you are feeling nervous, your hands are shaking. All of that happens because the nervous system cannot tell the difference between a real experience and a vividly imagined experience. So if you constantly look back at your past experiences where you failed, where you procrastinated, where you weren't able to achieve your goals, and you think about them and you feel them and you live them, you're basically reinforcing that identity and you're reinforcing that self-image. Psycho-Cybernetics argues that you can use this to your advantage. If you can use imagination to change your identity, if you can use imagination to rewire your brain, then you can achieve any goal you want. Now, how do you do that? You do that through a process called theater of the mind. Theater of the mind. Theater of the mind is a concept from Psycho-Cybernetics where you spend 10 to 15 minutes every single day visualizing yourself acting, feeling, and being the person you want to become. Now, this isn't just wishful thinking or daydreaming. This is a deliberate practice where you close your eyes and you see yourself handling situations in a disciplined way. You see yourself waking up at 5 a.m. and instead of feeling tired and reaching for the snooze button, you see yourself smiling, jumping out of bed, and being excited to start the day. You see yourself sitting down to work, and instead of opening up YouTube or opening up Instagram to doom scroll, you see yourself opening up your work documents and focusing for 2 hours straight. You see yourself going to the gym and pushing through the pain, pushing through the discomfort. And the key here is to make it as vivid as possible. You need to use all your senses. What does the room look like? What does the air smell like? What are you wearing? How do you feel internally? You need to feel the emotion of success, the emotion of discipline, the emotion of pride in yourself. When you do this repeatedly, your subconscious mind begins to accept these imagined experiences as reality. It starts to form new neural pathways, and it starts to rewrite your self-image. It begins to look for evidence in your daily life to confirm this new identity. Suddenly, discipline doesn't feel like a chore anymore. It feels like who you are. Hypnotizing yourself. Another major concept in the book is dehypnotizing yourself. Maxwell Maltz, the author, says that most people are hypnotized by their own negative beliefs. You have been told by your parents, by your teachers, by your peers, or even by yourself that you are lazy, that you are bad at math, that you can't stay focused, that you're just not a disciplined person. And over time, you have accepted these beliefs as facts. You have hypnotized yourself into believing that this is who you are. But these are not facts. These are just opinions that you have allowed to become your reality. Dehypnotizing yourself means breaking free from these false beliefs. It means questioning every negative assumption you have about yourself. When you catch yourself saying, "I can't do this because I'm not disciplined," you need to stop and challenge that thought. Ask yourself, is this actually true, or is this just an old belief that I am clinging on to? You need to realize that your past does not equal your future. Just because you failed in the past, just because you procrastinated yesterday, does not mean you have to do it today. You have the power to choose a new identity in this very moment. You need to wake up from the negative hypnosis and start consciously choosing the beliefs that align with the person you want to become. The success mechanism. Your brain has a built-in success mechanism. It is like a guided missile. A guided missile has a target, and once it is launched, it constantly makes corrections along the way to hit that target. If it goes too far to the left, it corrects to the right. If it goes too far to the right, it corrects to the left. It doesn't get discouraged by the mistakes. It uses the mistakes as feedback to stay on track. Your mind works the exact same way. If you give your mind a clear target, a clear image of the person you want to be and the goals you want to achieve, your subconscious mind will automatically start working to get you there. It will guide you towards the right actions, the right decisions, and the right habits. But the problem is that most people give their mind the wrong target. They focus on what they don't want. They focus on failure. They focus on their lack of discipline. They focus on their fears. And because the mind is a mechanism that automatically moves towards whatever you focus on, it guides them straight into failure and procrastination. To activate your success mechanism, you must keep your focus firmly on the target. Focus on the disciplined version of yourself. Focus on the successful business, the fit body, the healthy relationships. Let your mind make the corrections when you slip up. Don't beat yourself up over mistakes. Just see them as data. Make the correction and keep moving towards your target. Rewriting your self-image is not a one-time event. It is a daily practice. It requires you to consciously step into the theater of your mind every single day, to challenge the old negative hypnosis, and to keep your success mechanism focused on the highest version of yourself. When you change your identity, everything else follows. Your habits change, your discipline becomes automatic, and your success becomes inevitable. Stop trying to force the behavior and start changing the person who performs the behavior. If you found this video helpful, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and let me know your thoughts in the comments below.